Today we're going to be talking about theory and practice as it relates to public policy. This should be particularly interesting for you when it comes to organizing your paper, and it's going to be important for the midterm. One of the main reasons we look at this is that we are making assumptions about how policy is made, and you need to have a little bit of background as to what other researchers have found in this area. Also, it's going to be very important that you have done both readings and look at the Ingram video. So we have 5 articles in this module. A couple that are going to talk to us about public policy and the theories behind it. The Smith and Caretti video is very good because, article, because it's going to look at theories for understanding policy making, and it actually looks at several different approaches. And so if you go back and you think about the policy streams approach that we looked at in the previous module, you're going to see that this is a basis that a lot of policy making literature is built on. However, several other approaches have been proposed since the time that Kingdon first worked on that. And one of the focuses that we're going to bring into this module is the punctuated equilibrium model that Baumgartner and Jones developed about 25 years ago, that is very consistent with more environmental or ecological approaches. One of the things that you'll see in public policy is we almost look at a policy change in terms of evolution. And so a lot of the buzzwords that are popular in evolution, not the least of which punctuated equilibrium, are very common in our discussion here. The May article, Politics and Policy Analysis, gives you a further understanding of the idea of feasibility. After all, there's a lot of policies that I think we would all love to implement, but if they're not politically feasible. However, the other side of the coin is that if you're looking at a policy alternative that seems unlikely to capture the attention of either Joe Biden or Donald Trump or any of the people in between, then you're probably going to not find a policy that's going to be implemented in the next several years in the United States. If we look at punctuated equilibrium, and we have a voiceover PowerPoint that helps us to cover the material of this section. So we're going to talk about institutionalism. We're going to talk about punctuated equilibrium. We're going to review the policy streams model. So we're going to get a really strong background in the area of public policy theory. And so there's a lot of material. At the same time, your choice is, and remember that I mentioned this to you all in the past, is that I want to present as much to you as is possible. If you're not able to internalize all of it, at least you will have been exposed to it, and you'll have the ability to go and look at it in the future, and hopefully it will capture what you need for when you're able to do a little bit more reading. So the Schneider and Ingram articles, the last one you'll probably read, called The Social Construction of Target Populations, was a very fascinating read for me when I first picked it up, going on 25 years ago. And one of the things that I thought, I said to myself, I will always force my students now and for the rest of my life to read this. And the reason why I did was because it really opens a lot of eyes about who actually gets good public policy and what is even meant by good public policy. If you're a powerful but not well thought of group, you probably aren't so much concerned that you're going to change the public's impression of you. Rather, you want to have public policy that's going to protect your interests. And organized interests, and especially powerful organized interests, tend to seek specific policy options and um, to get laws passed, rules passed that help them. And they don't care whether the politician says wonderful things about them as it happens. On the other hand, we have other groups that are either because what we think of them is more negative, or we think that that person or group is not very effective at even knowing what's best for them. And quite often, those same groups are not well organized. They tend to have politicians say nice things about them. We're constantly saying nice things about people who aren't powerful so that they have a positive view of the government, yet the actual government programs that they desire, or do they get the programs that other people desire for them? And a lot of these questions will be answered for you as you read the Schneider and Ingram article. The Ingram from the Schneider and Ingram article is actually the same Ingram who will be in the video that you will be watching about whether we can and should have more democracy in public policy making. So there's this bias that public policy makers have that there's a right answer, that there is that if we look at policy and we find the right plan that will solve the problem, that then it just becomes a matter of forcing it through rather than getting buy-in and acceptance from those who are really affected by the policy. So this is what you're going to be writing your reaction paper on, is Ingram's video. I think it will be informed a bit by the Social Construction of Target Populations article. It might be informed a little bit by the Stone book, but at the same time, I'm hoping that you actually internalize some of what that video suggests. So if you're going to, I didn't stammer that much in the voiceover PowerPoints. We did a nice job with that. Lots of deletions and things perhaps, but eventually I was able to say what I meant to say. So in any case, I would pay particular attention to that. A lot of what you're doing right now is reading, and where you will get into trouble is later in the semester when you're writing the policy paper and when you are taking the exams, if you don't actually do the readings. I used to have quizzes at the end of each module, and what we ended up having with the quizzes at each module is a lot of people were struggling. We already have a great deal of material for you to cover, and sometimes the most efficient use of your time is to make sure you have the reading done and then to give you a take-home midterm exam that will force you to be aware of what I want you to be aware of. But I don't want to limit you. And one of the great parts about writing a paper in a course is that if you find material that helps you and teaches you about public policy analysis, or I also teach research methods, if you find material that helps you and you don't find it on the midterm, that doesn't mean it should go away. Instead, if you can use it to write a better paper, if you can use it to inform future research, then it's done its job. It's been valuable to you. And so when you write your policy paper, if there is something in this course that you think should have been covered more, and you can work it into your policy paper, I think it's going to make you seem that much more professional, make you seem that much more effective. Um, so we shouldn't forget, as we're looking at the stages of policy making, and this is one of the heuristics that we talk about a lot in public policy, and it's something that you'll find in the slides. I want you to be aware of what Bardock said, but I want you to also be aware that what Bardock has done is he has expanded on concepts that already existed. And so whereas he might have 8 steps, the 5-step model is perhaps a little bit more common. But I want you, if you can, is to try to map what Bardock is suggesting onto the 5 stages of policy making and see if there's something there that can help you as you find a synthesis between these models. And that's what I've worked to do, is I've looked at Bardock mostly as being focused on the actual policy analysis, and trying to remember that policy analysis, like a paper that you write in policy analysis, is really a report on what you've done in order to uncover what the true answers ought to be. In any case, I would spend some time focusing on this. I spend some time in the slides looking at Downesian mobilization. Anthony Downs is probably the leading political scientist of the 1950s, and people would probably have said he was still the leading political scientist throughout the remainder of his life. And then even in the present day, he's one of those people that we still refer back to. And Downesian mobilization is this idea that when there's a policy problem that captures everyone's attention, that everybody joins together in an effort to solve that problem. And there is a great deal of, not necessarily an agreement, but a great deal of agreement that something should be done. And so then there is this effort to get a policy adopted that solves the problem. And you're in a race against time. Either you're going to successfully solve the problem, or you're not going to successfully solve the problem. But what happens is that people tend to lose interest. And as people tend to lose interest in the policy area, the issue that caused the mobilization gets older. Then we fall back into the standard of policy making, which is slow incremental change determined by the governing institutions that were put in place during the previous moment of crisis. And so I would recommend to you that you read through particularly the section on Downesian mobilization. And if you ask me, I can find you many books about Anthony Downs, or many books that reference Anthony Downs. But again, I had to be a little bit frugal with your time, because well, you could teach an entire course and just call it policy making theory. In fact, I took that course in graduate school. It was a great course, but you're taking a course called policy analysis. I think that you have a opportunity, although again, I'm not asking you to read it. I reference a article by Simon Reich, who was written in 2000, that talks about 4 different types of institutionalism. And as you are looking at the slides, know that the Reich article is really great, and print it off and put it off somewhere and say, someday I will read this. But I tried to give you enough information from the Reich article that you should be able to do a excellent job of understanding different areas of institutions. And you should expect a question that asks you to compare and contrast different views of institutions. I will leave the voiceover PowerPoint to describe the different types of institutionalism to you. rational choice theory, um, sociological institutionalism, historical institutionalism, and uh, policymakers as actors, or you could call it organizational institutionalism. Um, but I strongly ask you to focus mostly on the readings that I have made available and to spend some time on the slide presentation. If you follow along my discussion on the slide presentation, that should take you about 40 minutes. Um, and you should, of course, be red flagging the different slides that seem most useful to you. Now, I've talked to several of you about your papers so far. I strongly encourage that you all take advantage of this. No, we only have that one assignment due this week. We do have a midterm coming up, and try not to fall too far behind. I'm pretty lax about due dates to this point. So if you have an assignment that you haven't completed yet, make sure you do. After the midterm, I would say that we're probably going to want to shut down any of the assignments that were due before the midterm, because it's going to be a mad dash to the conclusion then, making sure that you write the paper. You should be honest with yourself, right? Sometimes the course takes a good deal of time, and sometimes the course requires you to pick and choose what you're able to get accomplished. Make sure you first and foremost get accomplished the things that are graded. But beyond that, there's a lot of excellent material that could improve your learning. So, if I don't talk to you next week, if you have any questions, any concerns, please, please, please contact me. It is definitely in your best interest to succeed in the course. Thanks.